Good day, everyone. On this presentation, Romel and I will be discussing to you the Chapter 5 Theories of Leadership. Before we start, let us define leadership theories. Leadership theories are schools of thought brought forward to explain how and why certain individuals become leaders. The theories emphasize the traits and behaviors that individuals can adopt to boost their own leadership abilities. So basically, there are five theories of leadership. Number one is great man theory. Second is trait theory. Third is contingency theory. Fourth, situational theory. And the fifth is behavioral theory. Let us start with the great man theory. The great man theory of leadership is a 19th century idea that states a person is either a natural born leader or not. Some people are born with the necessary leadership attributes that help them create a great impact on society, politics, or the military. The theory focuses on identifying the innate qualities and characteristics possessed by great men. This theory, according to the great man theory, which should perhaps be called the great person theory, leaders are born with just the right traits and abilities for leading. They have the charisma, intellect, confidence, communication skills, and social skills. The theory suggests that the ability to lead is inherent, that the best leaders are born, not made. It defines leaders as valiant, mythic, and ordained to rise leadership when the situation arises. The term great man was adopted at time because leadership was reserved for males, particularly in military leadership. So, great man theory is linked to the work historian Thomas Carlyle and was proposed during the 19th century or 1840s, according to which history can be largely explained by the impact of great men or heroes and that great leaders are born or not made. According to this theory, capacity for leadership is inborn, that is, a person is either a natural born leader or not. These born leaders are highly influential individuals gifted with divine inspiration and the right characteristics like charisma, intelligence, wisdom, political skill, and etc., with a capability to have a decisive historical impact. The theories that were developed were called great men because they focus on identifying the innate qualities and characteristics possessed by great social, political, and military leaders. In the early 20th century, with leadership literature just emerging, it was believed that leaders were born, not made. Many leaders in various fields came from cultured, educated, and rich families, hence that assumption. It was called the great man theory. Of course, they were almost all men, as organizations continued to grow and evolve as a result of industrialization and later technology. These great men became outnumbered by the number of organizations that grew up and outmoded. But this theory is making a comeback according to some leadership researchers. David Catton, in his article Leadership, the Great Man Theory Revisited, shows that this theory has not been completely abandoned. He states that there are innate differences between leaders and followers that make them who they are. Here are the further implications of the theory that leaders are born and not made. Number 1. Leaders are gifts of God to mankind. A measure of divinity is attributed to leaders and their actions. Everyone cannot aspire to become a leader and to attain greatness. The inborn leadership qualities alone are necessary and sufficient for a leader to exercise influence over his followers and to become successful. Leadership qualities and effectiveness are independent variables. Situational factors like the nature and needs of followers, the demands of tasks, and the general socio-economic environment have little or no influence on a leader's emergence or effectiveness. The theory discounts the belief that individuals can be trained or assuming leaders' positions and roles. Leadership qualities cannot be transmitted through education exposure. The great man theory strength. The great man theory has certain qualities like persuasiveness, charm, demanding, personality, increased amount of perception, courage, intellect, aggressiveness, and be action-oriented, which skills that they cannot be taught or learned. Leadership characteristics are passed through the genes, either you have them or you do not. This is one of the strengths that great Manchuri is called natural born leader. Examples are from great leaders such as Abraham Lincoln, General de Gaulle, and Mahatma Gandhi. These were leaders that were naturally born with qualities of leadership and accomplished greatness by marvelous plans. Abraham came to power when the nation was in peril, and he had the intelligence and the self-confidence to know that he needed the best people by his side, people who were leaders in their own right and who were very aware of their own strengths. And one of this example is Mahatma Gandhi. He was a transformational leader, meaning that he was a leader who leads by example and empower his followers to make them feel better. A leader can do many things in order to be a transformational leader. But on the other hand, the Great Manchuria's weakness. The Great Manchuri does not have a scientific basis and experimental legitimacy. The theory is more of provisional perception. The limitations of the Great Man theory, apart from the unlikelihood of characteristics being passed through genes, is the ridiculous belief that some people become successful and great leaders based on their surrounding situations. Many new theories and even by some leaders are rejecting the Great Man theory. Now, let's have the fourth theory of leadership, the situational theory. It refers to those leaders who adopt different leadership styles according to the situation and the development level of their team members. It is an effective way of leadership because it adapts to the team's needs and sets a beneficial balance for the whole organization. With situational leadership, it is up to the leader to change his style, not the follower to adapt to the leader's style. In situational leadership, the style may change continually to meet the needs of others in the organization based on the situation. So basically, situational leaders are those who can easily adapt and have their flexibility in mind, and when it comes to decisiveness, they can easily adapt to change and to other matters that arises in an organization. The situational leadership model. There are two best-known situational leadership models established by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard. These two experts established two basic levels of leadership behavior. Number one is management. Management. The managerial behavior of the leader is focused on the definition of tasks. The what, when, and how to perform them is established. Number two is support. The supportive behavior is focused on team development. With emphasis on the participation of all its members, it provides cohesion and motivates people. According to Blanchard and Hersey 1980, a situational leader may use one of the following leadership behavioral styles depending on the situation. Number one is telling. This style is when a team requires close supervision and constant guidance. Leaders using a telling style make all the decisions and then communicate these decisions to the team. The telling style is most commonly used when repetitive results are needed or when a team is at novice level. Second one is selling. This type of leadership is typically used when a team or employee is unmotivated to perform a task or job duty. Third one is participating. The participating behavioral leadership style is most commonly used when a team is competent in particular tasks but do not have the willingness or confidence needed to complete them. And the last one is delegating. Delegating leadership style is when a team is efficient and effective at their jobs and require little guidance. Again, there are four styles that Blanchard and Hersey have created telling, selling, participating, and delegating. The advantages of situational leadership. In this theory, leaders are able to use whichever leadership style they believe is best in a given situation. A situational leadership style can be more comfortable for good leaders who know how to use it. This type of leadership style is fairly simple, as all that needed is the ability to assess a situation and adjust to it. Situational leadership can create a more comfortable environment for employees as the leadership style implemented will typically match their needs. This type of leadership accounts for the various levels of development in employees and helps to address each employee's skill and needs. However, the disadvantages of situational leadership. Situational leadership could cause confusion within an organization, as a situational leader may constantly change their approach to address each team or individual's needs. Situational leadership tends to only focus on short-term goals and as a result may overlook long-term goals. Situational leadership often does not work well when repetitive tasks need to be completed, as this type of leadership is flexible and many task-driven environments are not. Situational leadership depends on the leader's ability to judge an employee's maturity level. Some leaders are unable to do this effectively and may therefore provide a style of leadership that does not suit a particular employee or team. But there is a saying that the situational theory is similar to the contingency theory, as it also proposes that no one leadership style supersedes others. As its name suggests, the theory implies that leadership depends on the situation at hand. Put simply, leaders should always correspond their leadership to the respective situation by assessing certain variables such as the type of task, nature of followers, and more. So now let's have the fifth theory of leadership, the contingency theory of leadership. This theory supposes that a leader's effectiveness is contingent on whether or not their leadership style suits a particular situation. According to this theory, an individual can be effective leader in one circumstance and ineffective leader in another one. To maximize your likelihood of being a productive leader, this theory posits that you should be able to examine each situation and decide if your leadership style is going to be effective or not. In most cases, this requires you to be self-aware, objective, and adaptable. That's why this contingency theory is being related or somehow with similarities with situational theory, because the leader's effectiveness is contingent or dependable on the situation and the leadership style being used by a leader. The contingency theory of leadership by Fiedler. Fiedler's contingency theory of leadership holds that people become leaders not only because of their qualities, but also because of various situational factors and interactions between group members and the leader. This model also explains a relationship between leadership style and the favorableness of situation. Fiedler describes situational favorableness in terms of three dimensions. Number one is the leader and member relationship. Second is the degree of task structure. And last is the leader's position power. If the three dimensions are high, the situation can be said to be favorable. If the three dimensions are low, the situation in combination with leadership style determine effectiveness. Human relations-oriented manager or leader is effective in the intermediate range of favorableness. In the every favorable and every unfavorable situation, task-oriented leadership is effective. This theory is criticized for its deficiencies like a narrow focus on a single leader trait, ambiguity in a measurement of term of the model, and lack explanatory process. Fiedler proposed a new theory based on empirical research. which is called the cognitive research theory. He identified the situations under which the leader's cognitive resources, namely intelligence, experience, and technical expertise, contribute to group performance. However, there are four advantages of contingency theory. Number one is flexibility of management style. Fiedler discovered that different management styles work best for different types of businesses based on factors such as the type of work, organizational structure, stress levels, and how readily change was accepted. Through Fiedler's contingency theory, businesses are able to better assess and tailor their management to specific organizational needs. Number two is employee opinions matter. Under Fiedler's contingency theory, a leader's effectiveness is directly dependent on her relationship with her employees. To be successful, a leader must fit into the overall culture of the organization. The leader must also have the respect of her employees and be perceived as able to handle the responsibilities of a leadership role. As a result, leaders mold themselves to the organization and don't try to force the organizational culture to bend to them. Number three is flexibility in task structure. Different types of tasks require different structure levels. Fiedler's contingency theory takes this into consideration by allowing for flexibility in task structure. Creative occupations such as those with artists or software developers require less structuring and more freedom to explore creativity. Number four and the last one is anyone can become a leader. While some of people believe leaders are born, Fiedler's contingency theory proposes that anyone can be a leader in the right situation. Leaders must try to find their niche to excel. Leaders with poor interpersonal skills will fare better being matched with businesses that have highly structured environments. On the other hand, the disadvantages. Contingency theory lacks enough scientific research to support its effectiveness in project management. The theory fails to outline the best strategies to motivate different participants in a project. The theory can create misunderstandings, especially when managers want to select new leaders. This model might not address some uncertainties affecting a project. Landis, Hill, and Harvey 2014 argue that individuals using the contingency theory might be disadvised by their followers. Despite such weaknesses, the theory empowers leaders to change in accordance with the situations affecting their organizations. And the four limitations of contingency theory. Number one is literature. Contingency approach suffers from inequality of literature. Complex, difficult empirical testing. Contingency approach being complex presents problems in testing the precepts of the theory. Number four is reactive and not proactive. Contingency approach is basically reactive in nature. That's all.